It's always interesting to get the applause before you say anything. It's like pay it forward, you know. Anyway, thank you for all coming out. Good afternoon. I am pleased to welcome you for joining us as we celebrate the near quarter century of the Prince Albert District Community Foundation. We have asked Jim Scarrow to share his thoughts about our city and what makes Prince Albert exceptional. So I thought I'd do a little bit of research on Jim. I went to the library and I looked up the book of achievements and contributions. Frankly, the book was too heavy and I couldn't take it out of the library. So Jim is well qualified to be our guest speaker as he served 2 terms as our mayor. He is a life member of the Prince Albert Chamber of Commerce and a past board member of the PA District Community Foundation. I think that deserves a round of applause. Jim's professional career has been recognized as a member of the Canadian Association of Broadcasters Hall of Fame. For his role as a community builder, he was awarded membership in the Saskatchewan Order of Merit. He currently serves as a founding board member of the Cancer Foundation of Saskatchewan. I think that deserves another round. He and his wife Helen have 3 grown children and 5 grandchildren. They also enjoy their island cabin on Lac La Ronge, making them true Northerners. Please welcome a proud Prince Albertan, Mr. Jim Scarrow.
I was testing that podium several times this morning, and it just didn't quite feel right with this crowd. It's nice to be among friends and volunteers and people who do a lot in our community. I'm just going to get comfortable this way. Mona wasn't very happy when we changed her furniture, but it was okay. That feels much, much better. So, Belle, thank you for that introduction. As Neil Hedwig would say, that's the best recent introduction I've had. So, we are pleased to be here today as a founding member of the Community Foundation, Inc. My contribution was literally providing lots of airtime for publicity for the organization, and they've done good work, as you will see and hear today. This is a very low-key luncheon in regards to pitching. There would have been a sellout crowd, except everybody thought they had to bring their checkbook or their pledge card and make a contribution to the foundation. But what I think we would want you to do is to be ambassadors for our community as you continue to be that person. As I look around the room and see so many of you that are friends and people that I admire. I want to suggest that being invited to be a guest speaker with a man who grew up with a microphone would be an easy task, but believe me, after 10 years, of less public life perhaps than the previous decade, I had to do some really soul searching about, did I really want to do this? But I really wanted to be here today, and it's wonderful to see so many people. And I'm reminded of perhaps my best speech, the one that I remember the most, was I was mayor at the time. The high profile was certainly good at getting a good crowd because it was Chesley's room. It was full, and as I looked out over the crowd, I was a little nervous, but I had a pretty good speech, and we accomplished a few things, and the thing came together rather well. And I could see the smiling faces because there was a large contingent within eyesight. So at the conclusion of my speech, it was kind of one of those really rally points. I ended on that note, and one of the people in the front row stood immediately and started to applaud, which really triggered the whole crowd. The whole crowd, this mammoth crowd of people applauding so vigorously. And I thought, wow, this is a moment I'll never forget. until a few minutes later, I ran into the person because he was in the front row. I said, you know, thank you for starting that, you know, wonderful standing ovation. I said, I was really, really thankful. And he said, well, actually, I quite enjoyed your speech, but really, Mr. Scarrow, I really had to go to the bathroom. And there was my balloon. I'm going to go back to a little bit about me. I was born in a town that doesn't exist anymore, not because of me, but it was overgrowth of Saskatoon. Sutherland was my home, and my dad was with Safeway, and he was transferred here in 1948. And we arrived, my sister and I, with mom and dad in a 1929 Pontiac. My father wasn't a collector of old cars. It's a car we drove in 1947 because that's the only kind of car you could buy. There was a war apparently for a couple of years that not much made of metal was escaped making bullets and tanks, but we had a 29 Pontiac. And Bob Kelly, who was an educator here at St. Mary's, was a friend I grew up with on 28th Street where we first moved. And so I was telling him about our arrival, and he said, you know, isn't it strange that their family in that same year had a 29 Chrysler. So there was a lot of old vehicles. It was like a car show when you think back of all the old cars. But in any event, it was following the Second World War. My dad was a veteran, and I'm forever thankful for that. But when we arrived, you know, it was a little bit like the Wizard of Oz. We soon realized we weren't in Canvas or Saskatoon anymore. And it wouldn't be long before we would hear two words that would strike terror into the hearts of all Prince Albertans, new and old, and those words were Lacole Falls. Yes, the infamous explanation of why our streets were not paved, no sidewalks, no concrete swimming pool, no curbs, why houses on the east and west flats had small, tiny buildings in the backyard connected by a path to the house. And these were not, repeat, not granny shacks or elder pods. Halloween being a particularly worrisome time for the people who were owners of those tiny little shacks at the rear of a house. Now, that was about to change, I guess, because Lacole Falls hydroelectric dam began in 1911, and this was the development that would soon propel Prince Albert into the 20th century and bring eternal prosperity and development. We would all be rich. We would become Saskatchewan's white coal city. Euphoria turned to devastation when it was learned a few years later that the dam could not perform, would not work, and the project was abandoned. The total city debt in 1916 was $4 million. The dam construction, as a share of that, was $1.5 million, and the land and infrastructure was $2.5 million. And by the way, that $4 million in today's dollars would be $150,260,970.87. Talk about the magic of compound interest. In any event, I suppose if we'd only spent that $4 million on bridges, Prince Albert would be the city of bridges, and Saskatoon would be the city of bridge. And I would still be mayor. I debated about that line, but I'm quite happy having served 2 terms. By the way, one of the surviving benefits of that $2.5 million spent on infrastructure is the former Central Avenue Fire Hall, which is now the Prince Albert Historical Society's Heritage Museum. So now the rest of the story. The 1916 decision to halt construction and the subsequent decision to repay the loans rather than declare bankruptcy defined, I think, the character and qualities of the people of the day and our amazing city. This was a debt that would take 50 years to pay off. There was no expectation that someone should do something. We knew that if that someone was going to be one of us. Do what you can, with what you have, where you are. If we wanted stuff done, we needed to do it ourselves. Do what you can, with what you have, where you are. By the way, that final loan payment was made in 1965. I think there were several turning points for our city. I think first of all, through the First World War, the Depression, Second World War, I think we hobbled through those years just getting by because there was lots of suffering going on and lots of change occurring over many of those years. Inflation I didn't quit, but it was hard to that the stuff that we were paying for those loans could have built a lot of things as it did in a lot of communities, but everybody suffered. And we lost many of our best in the Second World War, well, the First World War horribly so, and the Second World War as well. And in many respects, that was a turning point when all of those veterans returned. They also started the baby boom. And this is a group of men and women who returned with a purpose. They wanted, everything changed after the war. The economy started to open up lots of jobs. And the one thing they wanted to do was to have the proper facilities that they know existed, but not in our community. When they came back, they wanted to get engaged and involved, which they did. They decided that a pool, which you'll see on the video presentation towards the end, was actually in the river. And when we first arrived in Prince Albert, that was still in existence. I looked at it and I didn't get in the water, but a lot of people did, because the final picture in the video presentation, and it's up very briefly, is just a huge number of people, probably 800 or 1,000 that are on the riverbank watching what would have been a water show in that pool. So they decided that as a memorial to the veterans of the Second World War, they would build a memorial pool, and some of the income derived through death benefits and through coming out of the service would be donated into the cost of establishing and building the pool. In addition to that, other businesses and individuals made a contribution. In 1949, that pool was opened. That was the first really community project that got us underway. And is it an interesting, in just another year, we'll have a massive upgrade from where we began on the river to Memorial Pool, to Frank Dunn, to the Gilbert Water Park, to what's being done now. So I think that is was a good start, and one of the reasons why Prince Albert depended on, they knew that the city wasn't going to do it, they did it. And in the bones of many of the buildings in Prince Albert are actually made up of hangars and halls and accommodations from all of the structure was at the airport for the air training for Second World War pilots, which were numerous, plentiful, that they were brought back into the city and repurposed to community clubs, to actually the buildings at Memorial Pool. Some you can recognize, some you won't, but they provided a secondary purpose in our community, probably because the volunteers looked at them as being opportune for what they wanted to see happen. Another turning point, I think, was in 1961, when the Minto Arena, which is close to where the downtown Plaza 88 building is, the former co-op building. The Minto Arena was there just off Central and First Avenue. And there was a fire, a major kind of fire. It didn't completely burn down to the ground, but did sufficient damage. And at the time, the Prince Albert Mintos were the team that the community cheered for and rallied around, except by that time, support was waning, and there wasn't support to rebuild the arena. And in fact, the bones of the Minto Arena disappeared to the Palm, Manitoba, and became the bones of the arena they were building. And we didn't have an indoor skating rink in Prince Albert for 10 years, 1961 to 1971. And isn't it strange that I think that would beget another one of the turning points in our community, and an important one. In the year 1971, the Communiplex was a gigantic undertaking by the newly formed Civic Facilities Association. It involved raising funds from across the city, across the province, across Western Canada. In fact, all the major centers in Canada were visited. If there were head offices with interests in Prince Albert, we would visit them. And as it turns out, John Jordan and I went to Winnipeg, flew because all the airfare were paid for by the airlines, did complimentary flights to these cities. And we went down and met with some of the major corporations that had interests in here. And I can't remember how much money we raised. The only thing I remember were the 2 pilots that took us to Winnipeg. Not so much on the trip down, but on the trip back. We arrived, taxied to the hangar, and the 2 pilots left the plane, I guess in retrospect, rather quickly. And then we deplaned, and as we walked off the plane, there were the 2 pilots fist fighting on the tarmac. Honest to God. Honest to God. So I've never been afraid of takeoffs and achieving altitude and the descent. I start to worry and worry and worry. In any event, I don't think that's ever been repeated, but that's one of my remembrances. But I do remember when we raised a lot of money. I mean, a lot of money. The centerpiece of that was, of course, Prime Minister's Park. And Prime Minister's Park has grown. That was just a big old open field. There was nothing there except the composite high school. I think it was there at that point. And so it was waiting to happen. And now you see it in all of the glory that it is. And it is a gloriful, wonderful park to be very, very proud of. And of course, our Communiplex, Bring Back the Magic and other campaigns that made it viable. But of course, it's limited in the seating, and I'll address that a little bit later. By the way, there were 7 covered rinks built in that kind of the same time frame up into the 70s. But at one point, we were the only city in Canada that had the most covered rinks per capita. So we went from zip to being a city of covered rinks, but also a hockey town. So when the Communiplex opened on December 12th, 1971, there were 750 people attending. There were no seats. There was no time clock. There was no public address system. Didn't have the budget. Didn't have the funds. So a special fundraising event to purchase seats was oversubscribed. The campaign was called Lift Your Butt 18 Inches. Pretty daring stuff for its day, I'd say. But it worked, and paid for the seats, and the following sellout crowds provided the funds for the time clock, all of the things that an arena needs. So the vision and the funding success for the Communiplex was a project and event that gave confidence, I think, confidence to the many large-scale community projects which would follow. Late Val Longworth envisioned not only the Communiplex, but also the concept of Prime Minister's Park. Leadership is defined as a person who inspires people to do things they never thought they could. That's a definition, the best definition I know of leadership. Inspire people to do things they never thought they could. And that was VJ Val Longworth. That's a round of applause in his memory. Isn't it kind of strange that Val was also involved with the Prince Albert Center of the Arts. He was our honorary chairman. And Mitch Holash is here and recognized Mitch as one of the really powerful folks who has a great organization, pretty good MC, wonderful speaker, but he's also a pretty good organizer, and he's a pretty good booster for Prince Albert. And Mitch, I value your guidance and friendship, and we still have lots of stuff to do in our community, so thank you for what you've accomplished. The E.A. Rawlinson Center for the Arts, I think, is unique because it too is a turning point, because it was the first major community fundraising project that wasn't a sports or recreation or health related facility. In fact, there's a small grin on Mitch's face because the fundraising committee were kind of concerned about the use of the word arts. And so initially we really strayed from using that word, but we did have to define it. And we wanted to connect it to the Broadway North Theatre Company, which begot from another person seated with Mitch, the one with the beautiful gray hair. Well, with more beautiful gray hair.
Lots more.
Than the other person with gray hair. We called it the Broadway North had been very, very popular. And so it kind of endorsed other theater groups of the day. And the pitch was on that we wanted to have a proper facility. And part of our slogan was, let's do it for the kids, because we thought that would work, and it really did. But the initial name was Community Center for the Performing Arts and Visual Arts. Something like that, but it was visual arts. We did say it fast, visual arts. And always we needn't have bothered because we oversubscribed in the funding goal. It's been a quality of life game changer for the city of Prince Albert. Amazing, amazing stuff is happening there with particularly young people to walk into that facility and they go into a dressing room. Looks exactly like you see on Hollywood or in New York. Dressing rooms with those little lights around and the makeup mirrors, and all of it is just so fantastic. The staff outstanding, but I'm slipping away from my script. But it has been a game changer, and it just filled that void in our community, addressing the musical lives of our students that are engaged in band, and all the music teachers, and all the things that are happening that contribute to a family and to a community. So that was important. And by the way, it's the E.A. Rawlinson Center. E.A. Rawlinson was the broadcaster behind literally all the media in Prince Albert, broadcast media, and was a great Prince Albert. And his son Gordon and Jill Rawlinson continued to contribute financially to the center from time to time. So the other, I think, game changer was in 2006, or turning point for our community. People, they weren't convinced enough. But in 2006, the closure of the pulp and paper mill in Prince Albert, probably, and that was the loss of 1,000 jobs, over 1,000 jobs. Probably wasn't the best time to be trying to raise, several millions of dollars for a field house. That campaign brought in a record, at that time, in that age, $5,164,230. And it just struck me till just now, that's more than the debt back in 1960. Times change, good thing, I'd say. The campaign, as they raised over $5 million, and the Alfred Jenkins Fieldhouse with its soccer pitch, climbing wall, gymnasium, walking track, plus outdoor soccer pitches, now include an outdoor gym, volleyball courts, accessible playground, and on, which brings me to something else. It brings me to a most remarkable human being. He is a force of nature. Not in the terms like elephants or things like that. He's a person, well, a description of a force of nature is a person who has a strong personality and character, like a hurricane or tsunami. They are full of energy, unstoppable, unchallengeable, and unforgettable. Malcolm Jenkins is our spirit of generosity. His most important gift is not financial, it's him. It's Malcolm. When he contributes, he gives you his funds, but you also get Malcolm. Unstoppable, unforgettable, unchallengeable, a force of nature. Malcolm, thank you. So there's a common key that has enabled Prince Albert to accomplish so much since the collapse of the Coal Falls. And that key is our volunteers. I look around the room and meet some of you, and I know that probably 100% of you are volunteers. But in this city, in this time, nothing would have happened without the volunteers. The city couldn't do it. But look what we've done. And these are just a few of the things that occurred over the past, 20 years, since the start of the 60s, or the new century. But just in the past 3 months, we've held the official opening of the Prince Albert Rotary Club's Adventure Park in Little Red River. And as a tribute to the never give up spirit of Prince Albert, but particularly of the Hospice Fundraising Committee, the long journey, 10 years, to raise $4.3 million for the Rose Garden Hospice was dedicated just a couple of weeks ago. Wow. Oh, by the way, in just a few days, the Victoria Hospital will be staging their Give a Little Life radiothon. And did you know that since the special day began in 2005, $8 million has been raised for medical improvements and upgrades. And when you think of $8 million, again, that's twice the debt of 1960. And I'm not going to say that again, but again, it gives you the idea of how much money we raise as a community. Just think of the many benefits in patient care, that by making sure that our physicians and surgeons have the best equipment and facilities to ensure that our people, our patients, care for their citizens that are outstanding at the hospital. So what about the future of volunteerism? Will our community continue to want the best for their children and all of its citizens, and dream of projects yet unseen? Well, I think we have to look at the present to see the future. Right now, as we speak, volunteers are raising funds for Prince Albert's very own Ronald McDonald House. What an incredible journey to get to that, to have it here. It just says so much about our community and what a need it is. Because Prince Albert is going to be the home of, the true hospital home for much of the north. That expansion, oh, by the way, I was by there, and there's a whole bunch of cement and so on. I just want to let you know that Malcolm is not building a drive-in theater. That's a parking lot, because they're moving all of the parking on the other side of the road into that area, and then commencing the addition and improvements to the hospital. But in the future, of course, we will see the furnishings for the hospital being funded locally. And I don't think that a 5,000-seat arena is that far away, because the league has said that we have to get to 5,000 seats. I think, by the way, make no mistake, it's a little different, but the concept and drive to build the new sports and entertainment district by the Broda, Burkowski, and Clooney families, is based on that same Prince Albert pride of accomplishment and pride of doing something big for your community. And believe me, those three guys, their families, could be building anywhere and be welcomed there, but they're doing it here, and it comes with considerable risk and an awful lot of work. And I know there will be volunteer opportunities for others who will be using those grounds, but that's the spirits that has really carried Prince Albert from the worst of times to the best of times. There's a popular song that I think we've all heard. Some of it, think it may be a little too rocky, but but the title is actually a pretty good title for a city. The title of that song is "We Built This City on Rock and Roll." Well, my first job was a rock and roll disc jockey in whenever that was. And I got to play the very first rock music on a radio station, so I like that one. Built this city on, well, a little bit of rock and roll. But if you were referring to Prince Albert, you would say, we built this city on heart and soul. We built this city on heart and soul. Then and now, they and we have built it better than before. So here's to the amazing things that we've accomplished. You know what? Just to kind of review your memory, I'm going to ask, I think Patricia is going to just do the magic button, and I'm going to do my low-tech thing that I have to do. But be better than this.
See your search history, Jim.
This is, there's two ways to do this, actually. No problem. So this is a bit of a montage of what we were talking about today. It's probably better if I do it manually. It's actually a little video. I think you just got tired of waiting for the button. But these are actual scenes of Lacole Falls. And you know, when you think about the 1.5 million, it tells you what 1.5 million bought in 1911. Because actually there's quite a bit of work that was accomplished. Those are cables that they used to move large pieces of structure across the river. Now, this is the swimming pool, and you can see where that's located on the north side of the river. Probably because there was an eddy there, and there wasn't much of a current. Look at this. More nerve than Dick Tracy. I wouldn't put a toe in that river. I know what goes in that river. But they didn't do that at that time. I'm sure they would. You never know. And then this is Memorial Pool. And I went to Central School right across from there. And one year I was the second guy in the pool when it opened. I always wanted to be first. Got into trouble for that too. And there's, you can kind of locate it, there's Anderson Motors, the old sunbathers. And there's another picture. There's the reason I put this picture, and those are from the airport. They're actually made into the change rooms and offices. Mintos, big ear, lots of players, big, and suddenly it just kind of faded. But that's some of the players. And then we went from no arena to this now Art Hauser Center. And you know, this is an early picture of the Prime Minister's Park, and it shows the construction. And then, of course, the inside of the arena. It shows all the. This is the E.A. Rawlinson Center, the bones of it, and an early picture just after it opened, and then kind of a neat picture. And then, oh, guess who's here? Love that $5,165,230. That was good. And there's a very special man there. And there he is again. And the center. I want you to know I got up early yesterday morning, beautiful sunshine, to take those pictures. I couldn't find any. And I did the same thing. This is amazing. I couldn't do justice to what this is. This is the Adventure Park at Little Red. Utterly amazing. If you haven't seen it, it's worth the drive. We're still doing pretty good with those volunteers. And, we've got lots to be happy about. For me, the happiest is that I finished my speech. So, thank you. Thank you all. Now, it's my distinct pleasure, there is a commercial, but it's a pleasant one. Barb Gustafson was a founding board member with the foundation, and she is going to bring you up to date as to our standing and accomplishment. Of course, we do have a brochure for you, but Barb, please come to the podium and, what I'll describe as
Call it the podium.
yeah, we'll call it. Leave that up. There. We're good. There you go.
Thank you. Well, thank you so much. That was a great presentation from Jim. I think it's very fitting that it's tied in with the Community Foundation because the essence of a community foundation is building over time. Often we get so caught up in what we're doing today that we kind of forget that sometimes it takes many years to develop to where we want to go. And I think Jim's perspective has certainly given us that. That being said, it's a little difficult following Jim, but it's not the first time in my life that I've done that. I started my work career in Prince Albert, working at CKBI, and Jim was my, not direct boss, but he was in charge of the radio operation at that time. And so I was able to be a continuity writer. I don't think they call them that anymore, but we wrote commercials, radio commercials, and it was great fun. And then I decided to go off to university, came back, spent about 15 years at the Daily Herald, and then another 20 years with SciAst and SAS Polytech, and all a lot of fun. I've been very blessed. But as someone who has just recently retired from that paid work, you kind of reflect back over time. And one of the things that I think about as an accomplishment that I'm really proud of is being involved in the early days of the Prince Albert and Area Community Foundation. So I was there and served as the first board chair, and that was a spin-off from my role as a director at the Prince Albert Credit Union. And the credit union was looking for a way to invest in the community that would last over time. Prince Albert Credit Union is no more, it is part of Connexus. But at that time we wanted to get something going, and I had the privilege of serving as the first chair. And so the foundation became official on March 10th, 1999. So as Jim mentioned, very close to 25 years ago. And among those early board members were people who continue to support the foundation and the community today. People like Jim, Merv Bender, Brian Rindall. Brian apparently is off on a well-deserved vacation today. And then there were board members that I think of who we have lost, but we still remember in the community, including people like Jack Matheson, Daryl Snyder, John Boyd, AJ Christian. It was a group that really believed in the concept. So as the first board chair, I was sent to learn more about the concept of the Community Foundation. And I remember in particular going to a meeting in Saskatoon of foundations, and those who were there passed the hat to gather some money for this new foundation. And one person tossed in a peso. Actually, that's a quarter I pulled out. I had a peso. I still have it. And I keep it as a good luck charm because the credit union didn't want to take it. Too much work to change it over. But so we had support from the other foundations and from those early board members who really believed in the value of creating a fund that is perpetual. And this is the thing that is really special to community foundations, is the donations that you make are not spent. They are kept and they earn. And some years that earning is not a whole lot, as we've gone through some years where interest rates were low. Now things are, for good and bad, moving up a bit. But the earnings are always used to meet the needs of the community, whatever that may be. And while the holdings of the Prince Albert Community Foundation may be small as compared to other long-standing foundations, as in Saskatoon or Winnipeg or Calgary, it has been a small but mighty source to support ongoing charities and to kickstart some important initiatives. And again, some of these have been initiatives that have taken many years to realize. So some examples include there was an annual, or continues to be an annual distribution of funds from the Moffat Family Foundation. There have been grants coordinated with Saskatoon United Way. There was a first grant in the early days for design work of the Rotary Trail, which has now come to fruition. A first grant to the Rose Garden Hospice Group, so they could put some design work together and begin their fundraising. We hold funds for annual scholarships that remember people like Herschel Davener, Joe and Tilly Kawula, Colin LaRoche of Birch Hills, and Gail Hartsook. There are family funds within the foundation, including the Hempstead Family Fund and the Gustafson Family Fund. And the foundation also managed the Diefenbaker Trust funds in the early years of the Rawlinson Center's establishment. So over the past 2 decades, I was looking in the brochure, it says $2.5 million has been distributed. So that money has come to Prince Albert and to our local charities. And these are dollars that in all likelihood would not have come here if we had not had a community foundation. So while my contribution has been just one among many volunteers' contributions, it gives me great pride to say that I was there when the Prince Albert Community Foundation began. And for the little commercial, that has to be there because, as Jim well knows, that's what pays the bills. I would invite you to take a look at the brochure and to think about making a donation. It lists the board of directors there, many people that you will know and many who are here today. And if you want to learn more about the foundation, please contact them or contact via email. It can be a small gift, it can be a large gift, but you know it will be there really forever to help Prince Albert. So thank you so much.
I was going to do my amazing gift to you at the end of my speech. I thought if I do that, they wouldn't be listening to your commercial. But I would add, take that home with you, share it with others, talk about it. Very few things actually, when you make a gift, go into a fund that will grow and grow. So it's something you can do, because you'll always be supporting other things in our community and agencies that need help. But it's at some point in your lives, if you have the opportunity to do so, the Community Foundation is one that really, truly keeps on giving. But speaking about giving, we're handing these out, and you want to read this very carefully. Could I just, if I have one? Yeah, I'll just tell you. First of all, I did this. If there's any typos, any kind of secretarial things that I should have been aware of, well, so be it. What's the big deal? The big deal is it's single spaced. It's, let's see how many pages it is. I know. Another single. And then what? Well, almost a half a page. And I'll leave it for you to figure out what that is. If you read it carefully, you'll see it. Actually, it is pretty amazing. Keep this one. Show it to your friends.
There's a few extra here. If you
Okay,
want to take
good.
an extra.
If other people would be interested in this, it's truly an amazing testament to the volunteers and the people who get things done for Prince Albert and area. Thank you. And thank you for today. It's just been wonderful. Thank you. thanks to Mona for all of her assistance and technology. It's nice.
Everything. We're missing Big Brothers Big Sisters on there, but they also brought a testimonial about what those funds have meant to them too. So make sure you take all the paper that's on your tables home and share it with other people.
Thank you so very much. It's been great to kind of walk down a bit of what has built Prince Albert, right? You know, and what we've overcome and some of the challenges. And thank you so very much, Jim. I really appreciated you today and you taking the time, you know, to come out of public speaking retirement. So.
I'm back.
Yes. So as well, thank you all very much for coming to today's luncheon. Make sure you check out some of our upcoming events. We've left out on the table there. Tomorrow we have our famous PAACF event and our newly chief, Prince Albert Police Chief, Patrick Noget will be there. It's an opportunity to kind of get to know him a little bit better. He's a really interesting guy. And Mitch and I were just kind of talking about some of the things that we know about him. So that is free to attend for anybody who wants to. Just let us know. So we are prepared with the appropriate amount of appetizers there. And you can get more information about our events and things coming up at the Chamber on our website or as well on our Facebook page, or you can reach out to us at the Chamber. Thank you so very much. Have a great day.